Hello friends, welcome to my channel Astro-Jyotish. In today's video, I have chosen Profession Astrology as the subject to talk about. This subject is a complex subject, and in this video, I'll be basically showing you what the classics really say when it comes to profession. So you would understand how many dimensions needs to be looked when one has to decide the profession of a native. So, and also you need to understand that nowadays there are millions of professions, and the complexity is gets further added because an individual gets his education or his certification in one subject, but does his job in totally a different subject. And sometimes, there are multiple jobs a native does, and that's why it makes very difficult. Remember, this astrology is all the old days from Vedas. At that time, the professions were quite limited, whereas now uh, it's totally different. So the challenge for all the astrologers is really to map those old principles with the new era. So there's a lot of research I think that needs to be done on this subject. But based on my limited knowledge of what I have studied from the classics, I would try to just give you a flavor today. Each one of the topics shown here could take an hour or maybe more to go through in details and understand them. But I'll just give, as I said, just a flavor today so that you can understand different dimensions. So let's understand what are the key things that are important when it comes to judging a profession. So the first thing is important that you should know the planets, all the planets. Uh, then you should have when I say all the planets in terms of what do they signify when it comes to profession. For example, Sun represents mostly government job. Mars is like soldier. So those kind of aspect. That's what planet. I'll go into details later. Let's look first the key themes. Then you need to understand the nakshatra. So the nakshatra basically is the is that lies or behind the zodiac signs. Okay, so every planet is going to be in a particular nakshatra, and you need to understand the nakshatra that are held by your ascendant, your 10th lord. Those two nakshatras are very important when it comes to judging a profession. Now, also, then the other aspect is the Rashi itself. So, Rashi in terms of which Rashi is really strong in the chart. Is it the Rashi that is in the 10th house? Is it the ascendant Rashi? Because that will have a say in your profession. Then the next aspect to look at is the nature, the sign, the nature of the sign. So every sign has got nature in it. So that's important to understand because that will play an important role. So, for example, uh, in terms of the number of planets in a particular nature of sign will have a say in judging the profession. The elements also will have a say in profession. The D9, the Navamsha chart. So you need to look into the Navamsha chart. So what do you look into it? So you basically see where from your D1 chart, the 10th house Lord. Okay, take that and see in what sign it has gone in Navamsha and who is the Lord of that sign. Okay, the Lord of the sign in Navamsha will have his say in the profession. The 10th house Lord in different houses. So within your D1 chart, where the 10th house goes, it will have a say. into relation to your profession. And then, of course, the other aspect is the yogas. So different yogas. By when I say yogas, basically um, when planets could combine together in a particular house. There could be two planets or more. Okay, so that's what yogas is. Um, so also you need to understand the uh, the source of the wealth. That's also is important to be looked into. That will also drive, will have a say in terms of your profession. Okay, and I've just mentioned here in terms of, let me start with rather classics. So what classics, mostly, Brihad Jatak by Varamir. So that the elements that I'll be talking next basically have come from Brihad Jatak by Varamir. This is a important and a very, very famous classic. Some of the research on this subject can be done by Dr. B.V. Raman, Sri K.N. Rao sir, and uh, Sri A.K. Gorji. So definitely these people are pioneers, and they have published many research paper, and they encourage to do more research. So let's go slightly in details when we talk about the planets. What do we really mean? I'm going to cover planet in more detail, but rest of the topics I'm just going to very quickly skim through. So the planet, as you know, are nine, and let's start with Sun. So when it comes to Sun, what does Sun represent? It represents honorable employment, a theater owner, a manager, occupation involving children, financiers. What does Moon represent? So Moon represents Marines, nurse, travel, liquor, housekeepers, catering, eating places, waiters, bakers. What does Mars represent? So Mars represents military, doctor, firefighting, chemist, barbers, factories, surgeons, dentists, cooks, chemist, druggist, hardware goods, machine tools. Let's see what does Mercury represents. Mercury, writers, accountant, mathematicians, lawyers, poet, teachers, clerks, post, postal man, bus service, train employee, reporters, media, mobile. Jupiter, counselor, philosophers, bankers, publishers, cashiers, priest. What about Venus? Musician, painter, cinema, artist, dancer, singers, musical instruments, dress dealers, perfumeries, beauticians, furniture, photography, beauty parlor, hairstylist. Let's look at Saturn. What does Saturn represent? So Saturn represents real estate business, architects, plumbers, building contractors, farm and factory laborers, nuns, monk, scavengers, and gardeners. What about Rahu? Okay, so Rahu is basically the space, pilot, aviation, radio, TV, drug, air hostess, event manager, travel and tour operators. So if you think these are kind of all the new stream of jobs, they did not exist, at the time when the Vedas were written. So this is what I was talking about, the new research that has to be added, and these things have been added by Sri K. and Rao sir, what Rahu really signifies. Similarly, let's understand Ketu. Ketu is secret mission, occult, foreign language, computer engineer, ashram workers. So these are the things represented by Ketu. Okay. So just given you just like mostly the classics will talk in these terms. Okay. So you need to factor in while deciding the profession. Let's look at the nakshatra. So when it comes to nakshatras, so nakshatras play a very, very important say when deciding about the profession. Okay, so nakshatra, I'm not going to go in details as I mentioned earlier. It's just think in terms of there are nakshatras, 27 nakshatra divided into different castes. So Vaishya, trading, Chandal, Cruel, Chatri, Brahmin. So these also they need to be mapped to the profession, okay, in the modern era. Similarly, you have got each nakshatra has got a nature. Okay, what nature? It has got a sex, male or female, element, whether it is a fire, earth, air, water, that or and then you have got guna. So is sattvic, tamasic? So that's the guna aspect. Okay. um, or Rajasic. So those three gunas, yeah, all these nakshatra have been divided, and the ganas, whether the nakshatras are divine, human, or demons. So what is really I'm talking here about? So these nakshatra, if you think in terms of if you have got your 10th lord, and you need to look the nakshatra what of the 10th lord. Okay, so the 10th lord, if it is in its own sign or if it has gone to some other house, look at the sign in which the 10th lord has gone, and look at the nakshatra it is holding, and then nakshatra, and look at all these aspects which I talked about. This will have a say on the profession. Now let's understand the Rashi also. So strong Rashi, so you need to find which Rashi is strong. Okay, when I say Rashi, basically you need to look at the 10th house, okay, 10th house and the first house. Whichever is strong will have a more say. Okay, um, because both can really, drive your profession. Let's understand the sign nature impact. So here this is I've already talked about. So sign nature. So you see if what kind of sign your 10th house is in, okay, or the 10th lord has gone into. So if the 10th lord has gone into a sign, into a zodiac sign which is of fixed nature or movable nature or dual, it will have a say. If it is in a fixed nature, that means you will have more like a fixed job. If it is in movable, that essentially means your profession will make you move from or make you travel a lot. If it is dual sign, with profession, you might be, quite, you might be changing your profession very quickly. You may not stick to one profession. So these are kind of, other things which drives or supports the profession. Let's look at the elements. So again, you need to look how many planets are there in different elements. So if you have more like more planets in fiery sign, that essentially means you will be more taking a lead role, a commanding role. You will be leading from front. So that kind of role. If it is more of earth, so your focus will be more in terms of accumulating wealth from your profession. Okay, when it is air, it is more about the communication. And if it is water, it will be more about nurturing. So this again helps in deciding the profession. Next thing is to look at the Navamsha, the 10th house sign uh, based profession. So in Navamsha, so this is your D9 chart. In your D9 chart, look at the 10th house and look what sign is it. That will also have a say. I'm not going into each sign because you can separately understand the signs, what each sign really represent. So that's similar to the planet exercise which I did. It can have another 12 different types of profession. The next aspect is to look at the 10th house lord in different houses. So for example, if the 10th house lord goes in the first house, your lagna, what does it mean? It means somebody who will be self-employed. Yeah. If it is going into the second house, that means somebody who will probably be doing a family business, because second house is family. If it goes, the 10th house lord goes into the third house, it's probably going to be somebody who will have to travel a lot, or who could be a speaker or a writer. If it goes into fourth, he might be a very learned person. Goes into, let's say, seventh. So seventh house is what? Your spouse. So basically, if the 10th lord goes into seventh, it means your spouse is going to support you, and you might have to travel abroad, because seventh house also represents foreign. So you will similarly, if the 10th lord goes into eighth, it essentially means there will be breaks in your career. So you said similarly, this is again each house by house you can look into it. Then the yogas are means conjunction of planets. So for example, if let's say Jupiter and Saturn, they join together. Okay, so that's a clear indication of what a lawyer, because what Saturn is discipline and Jupiter is law. So again, so that means somebody, a lawyer or a magistrate. If Jupiter and Rahu they conjunct, okay, so that makes someone a manager. If Jupiter and Ketu get conjuncts, that makes somebody a technical teacher. Why? Because Ketu is mostly a technical planet, and Jupiter is again a teacher or a guru. Similarly, if you have like Venus and Rahu, so Venus is what all the entertainment, okay, and what is Rahu? Rahu is Chandal. Okay, so what does it mean? It can show basically um, somebody who is in, let's say, a model, a TV industry, or glamour. Rahu also shows glamour, also as somebody who could be a cabaret dancer. Okay, so you see and if let's say Venus and Ketu are conjunct, Ketu is computers and Venus is again um, your luxury. So it could show somebody in the entertainment industry or computers as well. So this is how you kind of look or figure out the profession. Now, now let's look at the other aspect. What is also important to understand in the chart. So you should understand where is the source of wealth coming in when you look at the chart. So of course, your profession is what is going to drive the wealth. So you need to look in the planet in the 10th house, which you know. So if there are, let's say, um, there are planets which are there. For example, if you see Mars in your 10th house, it's not the lord of your 10th house. If the Mars is just placed in 10th house, that means you might be earning from your foe, for your enemies. Okay, you do something, but you'll gain from them. If let's say it is Jupiter is there, then that actually means your brother. If Venus, then your wife. If let's say Sun is there, then likely your father will help you with your wealth. So that's how it goes. So what do you do? You need to look at, you need to identify. First important thing in profession is to identify which is really the strongest 10th house from the ascendant, sun, or the moon. See which of these three among these three is the strongest. That is what that planet will really drive your profession. Okay. In Navamsha, you take the 10th lord from your Rashi chart, okay, and see where it is placed in Navamsha. Okay. If it, let's say in your D1 chart, your 10th lord is Jupiter, and Jupiter goes to Aries in Navamsha, then you need to look at Mars, because then Mars becomes uh, the driver of your profession. Just one quick tip here, which is if the benefics are there in the first, second, and 11th, then the native is going to have multiple source of income. Okay, one of the most underlying or important thing to understand the timing, and timing is essentially the dasha or the transit. That is what drives when the professions will really take off. Okay, so you might have a promise in your chart, but if you don't get the right sequence of dashas, then those will not get fulfilled. Okay, so that's also very important. I have not talked about D10, which is Dashmansh, which is really an important divisional chart to look into, because that really pinpoints to what kind of um, work environment one would have, what kind of bosses one will get, uh, when will is likely going to be distress in the profession, or when is likely going to be the promotion. So all those aspects can be seen from the divisional chart D10. So I hope this has given some understanding in terms of how the profession is judged in a chart. I will try to make some simple videos to address some of the common professions and the combinations associated with those common professions. Hope uh, this video has given you some information in regards to what the classics say about profession. So thank you for your time. Bye now.